All right, we talking basketball with our NBA panel. DraftKings contributors, Alex Hunter, Matt LaMarca, Julian Edlow, NBA building blocks, bros. So who are you building your lineups around tonight in the NBA? Start us off at center, Matty.
Yeah, it's this is an interesting slate, right? We've got 10 games. So by my calculations, that's 20 teams to choose from. There's plenty of value available. One of the teams that I think is going to provide some value tonight, Toronto. They're basically sitting their entire team. Chris Boucher, that means he's going to move. Well, he's been starting, but he should be looking at an expanded workload tonight. There are nights where he starts and he'll play 20 some odd minutes. That's not going to happen tonight. He's going to get into the 30s. And the guy is a machine on a per minute basis, 1.21 DraftKings points per minute this season. So I like his chances of putting together a pretty big game at just 7,100.
Jules, who is your big beefy center?
There's a lot of big beefy centers on this slate, really. Like, you can go anywhere you want. You can make the argument that you want to start building with value, like the situation in Detroit. You got Daniel Tice still underpriced for the Bulls. There's a ton of value. So I'll just say, because I think there's so much value all over this slate, I'm going to be square and pay all the way up for Jokic against Houston, who just doesn't really have a way of defending him. And with Jamal Murray out, this is kind of Jokic's time to finish off the season. He's played in every game so far. So the way that he's going to hold on to this MVP award that he's the odds-on favorite for is kind of just on volume. He's going to keep playing every game, keep smashing the matchups that he's able to smash in, and Houston feels like one of those spots. So even though he's expensive, even though there's a little bit of blowout risk, maybe, I think that it's well worth it. He'll find his numbers here, and you can bring it back with as much value as you want to have 2-3 studs in your lineup.
Alex, who is your building block at center tonight?
I think you should pay down. I really like Jokic, like Julian was saying, but I like paying down for Isaiah Stewart at $4,400. The Pistons are going to be without Corey Joseph, Jeremy Grant, Rodney McGruder, Wade Ellington. It goes on and on. But the most important guy that's out is Mason Plumlee. So Stewart's going to join the starting five, and he's made 2 starts for Plumlee recently. Once was 42.25 fantasy points against the Kings, and then 29 fantasy points against the Thunder, who are the same defense he'll face tonight, this time at home. And the Thunder have just been terrible, ranking dead last in defensive rating over their last 10. And over that time, they're allowing the second most fantasy points to centers. So I think Stewart at $4,400, he's going to go over 30 minutes, and I think he gets a double-double.
Jules, who you want to build around at forward? You got a couple of them north of 10K.
Yeah, so for me, I'm going to look at Jimmy Butler here, who's a little bit more expensive at 9,200 than I would like, but I love the matchup against Minnesota for, a couple of reasons. Just from a numbers standpoint, there's not going to be much defense played there. Butler's been kind of the key piece for Miami this season in terms of keeping that team going. And then you get a little bit of a revenge narrative, and Jimmy Butler's a good revenge narrative type of guy. He holds grudges and he acts upon them. So if you need a little bit extra juice on him there, I think that this is a spot that you can look to him. Minnesota ranks 26th defensively against small forwards and DraftKings points allowed. I just think, he's coming off a couple of games where the value hasn't been there. He hasn't been hitting, and his salary hasn't really budged. It's down $200. I'll keep paying up for him, I guess, in this matchup.
Matt, why are you smirking right now?
Jimmy Butler is vindictive against Minnesota. That is the most vindictive person on the planet. He was there for a year and a half, and he forced his way out.
He revenges against everybody.
What do you have to be vindictive about?
Because good players make things up in their head, and Jimmy Butler does that against everybody.
I just think that's it might be very well true. I just think it's funny.
I'm with you, Julian. Absolutely.
Jimmy Butler's one of the guys that makes these things up.
Yeah. You're probably right.
I wouldn't. I'm like lazy and unmotivated, so I would just go out and tank it.
It seemed like you pulled Jimmy Butler just out of thin air. You were like, I'm gonna pick. I
had to look at my notes.
Jimmy Butler.
Sometimes you forget. Or maybe Alex, I did just pick him out of thin air. It's a busy day.
Yeah.
Alex, you said you'd like the pick. So are you going around that same?
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Minnesota's terrible on defense, and like Julian said, the revenge factor is real. So if you're paying up for it, I think Jimmy Butler is definitely one of the better options. But again, I think paying down is the smart move. I think Sadiq Bey of the Pistons, like I was just talking about, the Pistons are resting a lot of players, and Bey's going to get into like the 35 to 40-minute range. He's scoring 29.1 DraftKings fantasy points his last 5, and as I just noted, the Thunder, the worst defense in the league over the last 10. So I mean, $4,800 is just too low of a price to avoid Bay, I think.
Maddie, do you have anyone as vindictive as Jimmy Butler for your building block?
Doesn't exist. I really like the Bay call. That was going to be my pick, but just for the sake of differentiation, I'll go back to the Toronto Raptors and go with Yuta Watanabe. Absolute minimum, $3K. List of players who's out for Toronto. Everyone. That's the list. It's Fred VanVleet and Malachi Flynn and Chris Boucher and Yuta Watanabe. And there's going to be like 7 dudes. I know you need 8 to play in the NBA, but there's literally going to be like 8 guys, exactly 8. So I like all the Raptors. It's weird. There's so much value, but not a ton of studs that stand out as being great. So I agree with Julian that Jokic without Jamal Murray is probably up near the top of the list. But it's like, it's one of those nights where if you were allowed to save, a few thousand and get some extra points in your lineup, you wouldn't be crazy to consider that. But you can't, so don't.
Alex, building around at guard, who is it? Who's your guy?
These guys keep saying Jokic. I like Jokic a lot tonight if you're paying up, but I think you should pay up for Westbrook. $11,000 is just too cheap for him right now. He's gotten a triple-double in 10 of his last 11. And as we know on DraftKings, you get a 3-point bonus for reaching the triple-double. He's gone over 60 fantasy points in 6 of his last 7. And now he goes back home where he's 7.6 fantasy points better compared to when he's on the road, facing a Pelicans defense that is third to last in efficiency. If we go to the DraftKings Sportsbook, this total is all the way up to 240 points, which is the highest of the night. Westbrook's just going to tear them apart, and $11,000 is just way too cheap for someone that's, I would say, almost guaranteed for 60 plus.
Yeah, most expensive player there on the slate. Maddie, what do you want to do at guard?
Yeah, Westbrook. Why not Westbrook and Jokic? You can definitely do it. So put them both in, eat the value, profit. That's my 3-step plan tonight.
Damn, bro. That's a lot of money, man. Jules, what do you want to do at guard?
I agree with Action Matt's 3-step plan to getting rich. It's a Jokic and Westbrook kind of night. Just the 2 most kind of relied upon studs in good matchups. And they're going to fill the stat sheet out. Like they could both easily get pretty impressive 60, 70 DK point triple doubles and nobody would bat an eye. So no reason to be much different. I guess I'll troll Action Matt and say for the value, Killian Hayes definitely the best guard on this slate. One time he had 30 DraftKings points.
One time.
Well, Maddie, if you go Westbrook and Jokic, I mean, that leaves you $2,800 here left. So going to need a value play from you. And maybe another one, because I know you've already kind of mentioned one.
Hayes.
The Pistons, you could go with Killian Hayes. You could go with Saban Lee. You could go with Frank Jackson. Monty Morris for the Nuggets, 3,700. You could throw him in there. PJ Dozier for the Nuggets, 3,500. They're, like I was saying, Emerson, it's just Value Town Central tonight. So
Value Town population, big Saxy.
Yeah, baby. There's plenty of choices. There are so many teams that are shorthanded, and we know how the NBA works. However much value we think there is right now at 11:30 in the morning, there will be 3 times as much by 7 p.m. tonight.
All right, Jules, you're on board with all those?
Yeah, it's almost like already a messy slate in terms of all the value. And like Matt said, we see this every night. There's 10 games in the NBA tonight. We don't even know about a handful of guys that are going to get ruled out and create even more. So I would say almost like the values that we're giving right now, because they are on everybody's mind all day, like go with the values that open up 30 minutes before lock, because maybe you'll get lower ownership. But yeah, I can't disagree. Like Detroit, ton of value. Nobody's playing for Toronto. You can look there. Charlotte's without a ton of guys. You got a guy like Brad Wanamaker that's going to play a huge role. There's a ton of spots right now, and all of them should be fine plays. But again, like, follow DK Live. We're going to have everything out for you, and that value is going to change, and maybe you get even stronger value.
Alex, who's your favorite value play tonight?
I mean, after Stewart and Bay, I think it's Ken Burch. Ken Burch is on the Raptors. He's in his last game, which was only his third game. He got the spot start, and he played 29 minutes. He got 29 fantasy points. And now when we take Siakam, OG, Gary Trent, Bembry, all these other guys out of the equation, Burch should absolutely start again, and especially considering they won their last game with him starting, which snapped a 5-game losing streak. He's going to be playing the Magic, who are 25th in defensive rating in their last 10, with, making all those overhauls at the trade deadline. So I really like Burch at $3,800. I think he should get over 30 minutes and definitely smash value.
Jules, let's go over to the DraftKings Sportsbook here. What's your favorite spread or money line bet for tonight?
Yeah, so this is something, when we do the slate show and when we do podcasts and whatnot, we talk about, just like we're going to have to wait to see the value. I would wait until at least 90 minutes before any game starts to bet it, because we don't know who's going to be ruled out. Something big could change that, maybe you land on the right side of it, but generally you don't want to just kind of leave it up to chance what these injury reports are going to look like. So first things first, I'm waiting before betting any game. That said, I think it's a strong spot for the Sixers as like a short home favorite. That was 2 earlier this morning. It's moved up to 3. I'm still going to be patient and wait. Kawhi Leonard's the big news here. If Kawhi Leonard is ruled out, I want Philly, like anything up to like 3.5, 4, I think is fine. You got Doc Rivers going against his former team. You have Philly trying to hold off Brooklyn in the East. They're pretty much at full strength right now. The Clippers are coming off kind of a gross shorthanded win in Detroit. They've been winning a lot of games. They're going to slow down on the road, and Philly's a really tough place to win. So I'm leaning to the Sixers here, but definitely want to make sure Embiid doesn't rest. Hopefully Kawhi's out. A lot of things to factor in before actually betting it.
Alex, what do you think?
I think my favorite bet on the DK Sportsbook is the Wizards outright money line plus 120 against the Pelicans. They were just on a 6-game road trip, and they won 4 of those games. And that includes wins over the Warriors and the Jazz. Like I just talked about with Westbrook, he's just absolutely feasting right now, and he's even better at home. And this Pelicans team is 9-16 on the road. So I think the Wizards pull this off and get a home win, and I like taking them as the underdog.
Maddie, favorite spread or money line bet?
I'm going Portland as 2.5-point road favorites over the Spurs. A lot of good betting activity points towards the Blazers being the correct side in that matchup. They're getting just 32% of the spread bets at the moment, but those bets have accounted for 95% of the spread dollars. So that means that the big bets, which tend to come from like professional bettors or sharps like Julian Edlow.
That's weird. I didn't bet Portland.
They're landing on the side of the Trailblazers. So Portland is finally basically at full strength. They've been playing without CJ McCollum, without Yusuf Nurkic at various points. They're good to go. They brought in Norm Powell at the trade deadline. I like this Portland team. They're probably undervalued for like the 17th straight year. Like, they don't play any defense, but they can just win games by outscoring people. And San Antonio is not a team that scares you. I think that they deserve to be favored by more here. So I will take Portland tonight.
Alex, favorite bet just overall for this NBA slate?
I keep talking about it, but I think Westbrook's a lock to get a triple-double. So minus 165 might be heavy odds, but I think that's an easy bet. But I also like Jokic at plus 100 to get a triple-double. He casually triple-doubled in the first game with after Jamal Murray got hurt, and he's gotten a triple-double in his last 3 without Murray. His assist rate goes up 10.5% with Murray off the floor. So, he's going to get double-digit points and rebounds. And now with Murray gone, the assist is a lock. So I think he'll get a triple-double.
All right, Maddie, what about you?
I'm going to go with a little over on a prop bet here. I'm going to take Terry Rozier over 23.5 points.
Scary Terry.
Their roster is just super depleted. We've been focusing on the Pistons and the Raptors, but the Hornets might be the most shorthanded team in the league right now. It's literally Terry Rozier. I mean, you've got some guys playing well like Jalen McDaniels, Miles Bridges, but Rozier's going to carry a huge workload tonight. He played over 43 minutes in their last game. Like, I think that this guy should be able to get over 23.5 points. The only thing is you have to worry about this game turning into a blowout a little bit. There is a chance that if Brooklyn is playing, at their best, this one gets out of hand early, but I still think Rozier has too much upside to ignore in the prop market tonight.
Okay, Julian, bring us home, dude.
Who the hell is Terry Rozier? Scrolling
Is it
around DK
Rozier?
Sportsbook, I'm looking for some Terry Rozier props. Can't find it. It's Terry Rozier on the Hornets.
Tomato, potato, it's not a big deal.
I'm sorry, I'm not a Boston guy, you know?
Yeah, you're talking to
think
two
that's
of them.
just a you thing. But anyway, I probably should have just saved the Sixers for here. I would say the Sixers, if and when we get that news that Kawhi is out, would be the bet. But if you want to get more action in this game, I think Joel Embiid over 29.5 points is in a pretty good spot. He dominated against Brooklyn. I think he'll dominate in the paint against a Clippers team that just doesn't have all their bodies. They've been without Ibaka forever. So I don't know. I'm pretty focused in on that game and the Philly side so far.